welcome back to the True Crime Guys podcast. I'm Lauren.
And I'm Michael.
Merry Christmas, people. How's everybody doing?
Merry Christmas,
You got all your
everybody.
presents under the tree? Or are you one of them last-second shoppers that going to be at Walmart on Christmas Eve trying to fulfill your tree?
That's me. That's me. I'm definitely
That's
one
you?
of those last-minute people. I'm like scrounging around trying to find shit. Because, I'm always trying to think about who I want to buy for. Because as we've gotten older, and I think most families are like this, it's not really discussed anymore. I think some families have traditions where they draw names, or it's like, or we only buy for the kids, or blah, 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 this and that. My family has done all those different types of things. But this year, I guess because everything else is going on, we haven't really discussed it. So people are just buying gifts. So I'm thinking, like, who would buy for me? It's actually a worse position to be in.
I was going to say, that sounds like a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, I think I'm just
There's
not going to
nothing
buy
worse
for
than
anybody.
when somebody you don't expect gets you a gift and you got nothing in return for them, and just like, okay, well, get you next year, I guess.
Yeah. But I don't know. I'm not a big holiday person. So I feel like, let's say somebody got me something really cool for Christmas. If I got them something really cool by December 30th, I don't think they're really going to give a fuck. You know what I mean? And I wouldn't. Let's say if I got, I don't even expect anything back, obviously, when I give gifts. Because usually the gifts that I get for people, I saw it and then I thought of them and then I'm like, I'm getting that for so-and-so. So I don't really care too much about the holidays and what that's around and all that stuff. And also, like we were talking about before this, it breaks you, man. It breaks you because you're like, oh, I have to spend all this money within this certain amount of time. I mean, yeah, you could start Christmas shopping in summer like a freaking nerd, but I mean, who does that?
Or,
you know what I'm saying?
or just, like my mom is one of those types. It's like, starts getting crap, basically right after Christmas ends. And it's
Oh
like,
my
by the time Christmas
God,
comes,
no.
it's like, I've been done for months. I mean, in a way, it's like, sounds like bliss because it's like, shit, done already by the time the holiday comes. But
oh, dude,
in
no.
another sense, I realize that realistically, that's never going to happen for me.
No, that sounds like torture to me. If I got something for somebody, I want to give it to them because I'm ready to reap that blessing of giving it to them. You know what I'm saying? I want to see their face. I want to see them light up. And a lot of times,
Oh yeah, you're right on that, dude. It's hard enough for me to hold on to a gift I got somebody for like 2 weeks, let alone like 6 months having it sitting there. I just end up giving it to them. They're like, oh, it's Easter. Here you go.
right? When's your birthday?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're just like looking for a reason. I don't know. I've just never been a huge holiday person, so I don't put a whole lot of stock in like, oh, we got to get gifts by Christmas, or I want to receive my gifts by Christmas or something like that. I've never really been that into it. I didn't even really understand it as a kid. I remember being a kid and holidays, we'd wake up and holidays would be happening and I'd be like, when is life going to go back to normal? I'm like, when is all this going to go back to normal?
I couldn't disagree with you more. I'm the holiday guy.
I know.
Love it.
I'm a
I get into
weirdo.
it.
But that's just how I've always been. I was a kid that didn't really want to go trick-or-treating. I was made to go trick-or-treating as a little kid. And then when I got old enough and got into baseball, then the World Series was always on during the end of October. So I'm like, nah, you guys go ahead. I'm just going to watch the World Series. And I'm just not a holiday person, bro. I don't know what to tell you. I try to enjoy every day. And so I think holidays distract from that because I'm like, oh, now everybody's doing this. So I don't know. Maybe it's just me being a contrarian from a small child. I can't help it. I don't know.
Yeah, because you're by saying that, you're insinuating the rest of us don't enjoy every day. We're just waiting, counting days, like back in January until Christmas, like it's Whoville.
Obviously that's not what I mean, but I'm just saying. I know.
I'm just fucking with you.
I don't know. I look at every day as an open slate. Let's put it to you that way. And then when you have holidays mixed in, that day is like marked off the calendar. It's like, no, we can't do that. It's Christmas. And I'm like, fucking Christmas.
Christmas always cock blocking.
Seriously, Christmas, fucking Easter. What is this? No, I sound like the worst.
Easter is pretty silly, if we're being honest. Especially if you're not religious, it's
if you're
kind of
not
silly.
religious, it's like, what are we doing here with the whole eggs and shit? And
fucking hiding eggs and shit.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we got Scam Artist series continuing. It's back, part 3. I feel like we could continue this series. It's like for eternity. Just bring it back around like once every 3 months. Be like, hey, we got another one.
Yeah, we got another Scam Artist here. Yeah, we could kind of like we're doing with the Freeloader series. We release one whenever the hell we want. Yeah, we could do that with the.
Whenever we need like kind of a palate cleanser, if you will, from true crime from the brutal murder and all that.
Yeah.
We just break out a scam artist.
It is nice to go into a case knowing that I could make fun of anyone in this case and no one will get offended.
Pretty much, yeah.
Right? Not that I want
this
to.
case
Not
is
that I
pretty
want to
safe
make
from
fun
that.
of victims. I'm just saying. But this case is not a victimless crime per se. Not a victimless crime, but kind of close to
the insurance companies got for a bit.
Yeah,
I
fuck
think it's
them, though.
victimless because in the end, they got their money back anyway. So
That's right. Yeah, it is. But this is a wild ride.
And there's definitely some stuff to make fun of. This case is the Canoe Man.
The Canoe Man.
And if that's not a funny enough title for you, then I don't know what to tell you. Just leave now.
Right, just get out of here.
This is the case of the Canoe Man, and we'll see you on the other side.
Let's do it.
Okay. And what did you do?
I took the canoe out and paddled out to sea and...
So you did actually physically paddle out to sea?
Yes,
And where did you paddle to?
south. I can't remember what you call it, North Gare or something like that.
Okay then, so you pulled in at the pier and did what? Did you have a car waiting? Or...
Well, basically, I had made my wife, or basically told her that, if we were doing things, then she had to agree, and she picked me up.
Did she? From the pier. And what did you do with the canoe? Just push it back out to sea, or?
I just pushed it out to sea.
Canoe man, now you dead, what you gonna do, man? You know they coming for you in it. Why don't you roll on back to your homeland? Canoe man, now you dead, what you gonna do, man? You know they coming for you in it. Why don't you roll on back to your homeland? Canoe man. The Canoe Man, emphasis on the new man. All is part of my plan. Played them for a few $100,000, cause my toes belong in the sand with my boo in Panama. Till that motherfucker had a camera and he put our picture on his website just when things were going right. Wish I was still the Canoe Man. Roll off into the night. I'd roll off into the night. Canoe Man, now you dead, what you gonna do, man? You know they coming for you in it. Why don't you roll on back to your homeland? Canoe man, now you dead, what you gonna do, man? You know they coming for you in it. Why don't you roll on back to your homeland? Canoe man.
All right, our case this week for part 3 of the Scam Artist series is a guy by the name of John Darwin. John Darwin is the Canoe Man, if you're wondering.
He is. Spoiler alert.
He did something that maybe all of us at one point would like to do, I guess.
What,
fake our own death?
Ooh, it depends. It depends. I haven't wanted to yet. Like, who knows? Who knows what kind of shit you might get into, or if you just want to start over.
Wasn't it Huckleberry Finn that like witnessed his own funeral or like busted in on it or something, faked his death, and then that'd be, I don't know, in a fantasy world, it sounds kind of fun to like observe your own funeral, you know?
Yeah. Well, there's a conspiracy theory that Jesse James did that as well. Apparently, he showed up in like disguise and sang at his own funeral.
We got to do that case. We got to do that one. We had so much fun with Billy the Kid.
We really do need to do Jesse James because I want to hear what you think about the end and about is he dead or is he not? Because have you listened to the strange short I did on Sandu about Jesse James possibly still being alive or not alive now, obviously, but alive in 1948, almost 50 years after he was supposedly died.
No, I didn't hear it. Holy shit.
Yeah, dude, I have this newspaper article. It's actually framed and hanging on my wall, and it says Jesse James is alive in Lawton, and it's a newspaper from Lawton, Oklahoma, Wednesday, May 19th, 1948, and it's this whole article. He's the front page.
Oh, shit.
And it's this guy, and dude, he really fucking looks like Jesse James, and he has like items that only Jesse James had. He knew all these things that allegedly only Jesse James knew. He talked about how he changed his name and has been living under an alias.
So either he's a Wild West creepo stalker that somehow got all this information about, because I mean, it's not like you had the internet back then to just learn like exactly everything that he wore and stuff. You'd have to really scour you'd have to talk to people and really
And he's the right age. He's the right age, right eye color, everything, bro. It's very convincing. Very convincing.
Yeah, we'll have to do Jesse James' case, maybe the next Patreon episode or something.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, we should.
But let's stay on course here. This isn't just a banter.
For once.
We got John Darwin, the Canoe Man, and we're going back to jolly England for this one, mate. So enjoy our terrible accents.
All right, very well. Jolly good. Let's go.
So from now on, we're going to do the whole episode like this. Just bear with us.
All right.
I'm kidding. I could never do that. I couldn't do that to myself, let alone you guys.
Yeah. The more you talk like it, the more you're like, I don't know very many things I can say in this accent.
Yeah, it gets old real quick, right?
Yeah. You can only say mate and crumpet so many times.
Yeah, right. So John Darwin was born on August 14th, 1950 in Hartlepool. I'm sure I already screwed that pronunciation up. In County Durham.
No, Hartlepool I think is right, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, I've actually heard that town. Hartlepool, yeah.
In County Durham in England. And he shares a birthday with Mila Kunis, Halle Berry, and Magic Johnson. One hell of a group. Maybe the best group we've ever had.
It might be. Seriously.
I mean, two just stone cold foxes there, obviously. Mila Kunis, right? I had quite a thing for her after you mentioned That 70s Show, of course. But then also when she was in Forgetting Sarah Marshall, man, I fell in love with her in that movie.
That's when I fell in love with That 70s Show. God, Jackie!
But then also Halle Berry, man, I had a thing for her too.
Oh, of course. I mean, Halle Berry's still beautiful. I follow her on Instagram, bro. She'd be putting up some inspirational shit.
Yeah. And then you got Magic Johnson.
Mm-hmm. Magic Johnson.
Legendary basketball player.
Basketball players. A great
great analyst.
Commentator as well. Yeah. He really is. He's a great he's like the Tony Romo of basketball or something. Like
a little off the cuff and
yeah, he's very good. He has a great understanding of the game. He's very intelligent as well. And very charismatic. That helps.
Yeah.
That helps, you know?
Yeah. So, John Darwin, in college over in England, he studied biology and chemistry. On December 22nd, 1973, he married who would be his longtime wife, Anne Stevenson. And together they had two sons, Mark and Anthony. John Darwin would go on to teach science and mathematics for 18 years before leaving to join Barclays, a multinational investment bank and financial service company in Britain. So a real big company.
Yeah, he was quite the mathematician. He was very good at math.
Yes.
Wasn't he? This is
I think he thought
like
he could
Breaking Bad.
I think he thought he could directly correlate his ability to work with numbers into wealth, which didn't exactly work out for him. I think he thought just because he's so good at math, moving numbers around and stuff like that, he could find a way to do the same thing with his bank account, and he was really obsessed with becoming extremely wealthy. And I mean he had good
like overall intentions.
Yeah, well, he had a good plan in place. He just was impatient. I think was his biggest problem. He wanted to be rich like as soon as possible. Then again, I mean,
yesterday.
he did work, as a teacher for many years, but it seems like he got to a certain age at retirement and he wasn't where he wanted to be, and he tried to force his hand. He tried to make himself rich really quick.
Yeah,
and he probably should have been working on that wealth over all those years. It takes time.
it's kind of like a Breaking Bad situation. He's
Yes,
kind of like
you know what? I got
Walter
the same
White,
feeling,
but
right? I got the
he
same
had
feeling.
he didn't have the urgency that Walter White had. Like he didn't have a death diagnosis or like
Right.
a cancer diagnosis. He just was like you said, he got to a point of his life where he's like, I'm not where I want to be, and I want more money, and so he just took a crazy chance.
Well, also he wasn't where he was. I mean, he was facing bankruptcy because he was so they were. It wasn't just that they weren't wealthy; it was the opposite in that they owed so much money as well from trying to become rich too quickly.
Right, and he just couldn't bear the. I don't think he could bear the shame of becoming bankrupt.
Yeah.
I just don't think that was in the cards.
Yeah.
That was never in the cards for them.
Yeah. So John and his wife Anne, they moved to the scenic seaside town of Seton Carew in December of 2000, where John worked as a prison guard. And they're getting older at this point. Their boys were grown and living on their own. And John Darwin and Anne was now a doctor's receptionist, and they also ran a business renting rooms. They had 13 different buildings or homes where they rented out rooms from to single persons. So one person per room, and you would pay, I don't know, by the night or by the week, whatever it was. And they dreamed of becoming millionaires by, owning these properties and renting out these rooms.
Right. This is insane that they got to this point and mismanaged their money. It's like if you got to the point where you have 13 rental properties, you had all the tools to become successful.
But they had no patience. They took on too much too
They
quick.
had no
It wasn't the
patience.
rental
That's right.
properties that were the problem. Those were
That's
paying
right.
for themselves and a little bit more, but they took on these two large properties, these seafront massive homes, 3 and 4 of the cliff.
Yeah.
And one was massive home for them, and I think maybe they were renovating the one next to them, next door that was actually connected.
Right.
And they were going to sell it or something. I don't know. But those two houses basically bankrupted them. They couldn't afford them based off of the money they were making from renting those rooms, and from being a prison guard and his wife being a doctor's receptionist. They weren't bringing in enough cash flow to afford those two. They took too big of a risk with those 2 big homes they bought.
Damn. People want that look, man. They want that look. It's like, what good is me being a real estate tycoon if I don't have some of the nicest real estate to live in, I guess. It seemed like things were going fine. But I mean, being a prison guard at this time and a receptionist as your main sources of income, which obviously they still needed them, right? Or they wouldn't still be doing them. So
I think that's a farce, dude. Don't you think that's a farce that, like, if say you're a real estate agent, you have to look the part? You always hear that. Like, it seems like they get kind of pulled into this mentality where it's like, you have to drive a Mercedes, you have to dress like high-end suits and stuff in order to be no one's going to buy a home from you if they don't believe that you're successful. It's like, I'd rather have a real estate agent that drives a beater car, because then I just don't feel like they're going to be trying to do anything to sell me a house and make commission. Like, I don't know. I don't buy that as the consumer myself. Maybe I'm in the minority here, but I just feel like I don't need the uber successful look in order for me to believe that you know how to sell a house or that I want you to sell me a house. I don't buy that.
Okay, let me ask you this. Would you get the beater car salesman to sell your house?
Yeah, if I met him and I liked him.
Probably a bad idea, but yeah. I'm sure he's a great guy, Lauren. I'm sure you're doing a great thing. I mean, I hope you like to hold on to that property. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, maybe I could talk him out of some of that commission.
Yeah, there you go.
It's obviously money's not a huge priority for them.
Damn.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, or maybe he's just a really bad realtor.
Yeah, that's possible.
But I mean, you got to start somewhere. You have to start somewhere, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you don't just get your real estate license and it comes with a Mercedes. Like,
exactly.
You have to work your way up. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying, and I think a lot of people get talked into doing that before they have any success, and you're already putting them in a hole from the start, just to try and look the part when they haven't even sold a house yet.
I agree, because they feel like they need to look that way. Yeah.
So John, as we mentioned, was kind of obsessed with becoming rich and tried many methods, none of which at the time were paying off at the rate that he was hoping for. He was playing the stock market. He had these 2 large properties he had purchased that he was hoping to, flip one of, I think, to pay for the one that they were going to stay in. But they had basically gotten in over their head after purchasing those 2 large homes, and they couldn't afford them. Bankruptcy was looming. They actually had like a hearing for bankruptcy coming up when on Thursday, March 21st, 2002, John Darwin was seen paddling out to sea in his kayak off the beach in Seton, Canoe. A neighbor named Howie Russin saw John paddle out like he had many times before. So this is a common thing John would do. He'd go out and paddle around in the ocean. Their home, their big fancy home was right on the beach. So all he had to do was basically walk out with his canoe. On this day, on March 21st, 2002, that Thursday, the weather wasn't ideal, but it wasn't also so treacherous that it was suicidal to go out there. It was just basically choppy waters, a little bit of a breeze. And so Howie Russin saw him go out, like he had many times before, and thought nothing of it. He's like, yeah, he's paddling out. It's a little bit choppy, but whatever. However, at 9:30 p.m. that night, John's wife, Ann, became concerned and had called and reported him missing to the police after he had not returned home. An ensuing large-scale area search took place, during which 62 square miles of coastline and 200 miles of sea were searched. A total of 40 men were out searching for John, and all they found was the next day they found a double-ended paddle, that would be used for the type of canoe that John went out in. It very well could have been his canoe paddle, and they assumed it was. But no John Darwin. No John Darwin was found. The search operation costed about 100,000 pounds. And finally, after a few weeks, they found the battered wreckage of Darwin's kayak. And at that point, you have to assume the worst.
Right.
When he hasn't been seen for weeks, and then you find the battered kayak, you would basically assume him dead at that point. When the police broke the news to Ann that, around this time as well, a body washes up. And then you're thinking the worst there. It's like, it's got to be him, right? However, it was not John. And when the police broke the news that the body that had washed up was not John to Ann, she wept and wailed and said that she wished it was, because then with a body she would be able to grieve properly and reach some closure. However, time went on, and there was no word from John, and it would appear to most at this point that John had capsized his canoe in the choppy waters and drowned. That's at least what John was hoping that people would think, because he was not dead. And that's why we're covering this case, and that's why he's part of the Scam Artist series, part 3. During this time,
this wasn't a terrible plan, to be honest.
No, I mean, it worked for a while. It really worked for a while.
It worked for a long. I mean, even to the point of knowing that nosy neighbor is going to testify that you went out on your canoe that day, because he probably went out on his canoe, and then on his way in, his neighbor probably stopped him and said, "Hey, John, how was the water? I saw you paddling out this morning." You know how neighbors do.
Yeah, so he assumed he was being watched by somebody or was being seen by somebody. That's why he paddled out. He paddled out of sight before making a turn and going far enough away that no one would be able to see where he came back in at.
Right. But there was a part of the sea where like big shipping containers and ships were being transported constantly right across there.
Pretty sketchy spot to go paddling through.
Exactly. So it didn't seem very realistic for him to just keep going straight out into the ocean, because it's like a highway of ships, at least described by the neighbor from my point. That's what I gathered from
However,
it.
maybe that's what he wanted the neighbor. Maybe he wanted people to see him heading towards that, and that would kind of explain how he was, able to, in a sense. Because I mean, there was a bit of like wonder as like how did he get misplaced from his canoe when the waters weren't that bad? The weather had actually continued to clear up, and the waters the next day were completely flat.
Right. And the choppiness that we're describing of the ocean here is just its shore. It's just the tide coming in. Once he got out past where the tide was coming in a little bit deeper water, it was calm. It was like a normal day out there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the only choppiness was right there. And then unless someone just had no sense and like went up underneath one of those shipping ships.
I was going to say, it's almost as if the only thing that would make sense to outsiders is that he got struck by some sort of a boat or...
Yeah, but golly, how do you get struck by a boat? You're in the middle of the fucking ocean. Open your eyes, bro.
I know,
if you're
right?
getting struck by a boat, it's not... I don't know.
It's not like you're forced to swim. You have paddles. You can move at a fairly decent clip if you see something coming from a distance, but...
Right, yeah.
And you would think he would have... He should have had a life jacket, a life jacket on, or a... what do you call those? Life jacket, I guess.
A life jacket. He should have definitely had a life...
What's with the life preserver, kid?
Call it. Right.
Let me get a
lifesaver around your waist. Where's your floaties?
Doing some more Back to the Future.
Oh, yeah.
This kid thinks he's going to drown. So during this time, as we mentioned, John was alive and well, even though everyone else was assuming him dead. And believe it or not, he was frequently calling his wife from the Lake District to see when the coast was clear for his return to their home in Seton Carew. So his wife is in on this, and she had actually picked him up that same day before calling the police. John's plan of roping his wife into a life insurance fraud scheme was in full effect now, and it was too late for her to change her mind. The night that John had paddled out and supposedly drowned, Anne had done what he had asked her to do by picking him up at the shore near North Gare. From North Gare, Anne drove him 40 minutes to Durham Railway Station to make his getaway. So they knew that he had to get away for a while if this was going to work. And Anne was going to have to put on her best acting chops to basically convince the authorities that her husband had not returned and that she was distraught, in his disappearance and then presumed death. And she did a valiant job of lying to the police and authorities and media and everyone about this for a long time. And really, she put in more work than her husband. He's a dick in so many ways in doing this to his family. I mean, what he does to his sons, which we'll get into, but to make his wife be a part of this, because this was never her idea. She just did this initially, I think, out of love for him, and also then at a certain point it became the point, like now in the story, where she's just too far into this to back out now, or she knows she's implicated in this crime now.
Also, though, I know the couple had their money problems and probably other issues, but it seemed to me that they truly did love each other and that they were soulmates, and they had already decided that, and I think she had decided from this point and before this point that I'm going to stand beside John no matter what. If this plan goes
they've been
bad,
together
then I guess we're both going to prison.
Yeah, they have 2 grown sons. That's how long they've been together. I mean, you're talking 20 to 30-year relationship. They've been through so much. Now they're getting up into their older years. At that point, you start thinking, like, am I really going to leave this person and try and find someone new after all the, everything I've been through with this person? You're basically tethered to them.
Right. I mean,
and we can't take away guilt. We can't take away guilt from her either. She was complicit in it, and she is therefore just as guilty. So I mean, it's not like she's innocent.
Absolutely. But I think she does what any loving wife would have done in this situation. If, I don't know, it just feels like they were in their last, in their last chance.
Once again, a little bit like Breaking Bad, like when Walt roped his wife into it.
Yeah, Skyler.
Yeah.
Yeah, he roped Skyler into it, and at first she wasn't feeling it, but then later she's like, I can play this role. Not only can I play this role, I can play it damn well.
Yeah.
And I think the excitement of that as well. I mean, think about it. They lived their lives pretty normal for the first 30, 40 years together, like you were talking about.
Yeah.
And I think this was also exciting. It was a way to kind of get over on people and also get back ahead. And I don't know, maybe it kind of sparked their relationship a little bit for a little while. It seemed as though they did. They had fun for a little while.
Oh yeah, when they got the payouts, they were having some fun.
They sure were.
Yeah. So after a few weeks of being on the lam and hiding out from the authorities, while his wife was convincing them that her husband was gone forever, and finally drove to Cumbria to pick him up, although she didn't recognize him at first because John had grown a beard and was wearing different clothes and was walking with a limp and using a walking stick. So he was really selling this new identity that he was going to create. And with such a disguise, John was back at number 3 The Cliff no longer than a month after his disappearance. And using a false door, which led to number 4. We mentioned how they had this 2 large beachside houses next door to each other, and so he had this false door that would lead from the main home that they had lived in to the next door home in which they were like renovating or whatever they were doing. And so at any given time, if someone just randomly popped in for an unexpected visit to see Anne, he could just pop through that false door, go into the next house over, and he could even go into the attic. He had like a secret room in the attic of the neighboring home.
Right, and the false door was actually in the master bedroom of him and Anne's room.
Mm-hmm.
So, he could be in the room, go into the closet, and then there was like a backing in the closet that you could pull off and then go out into the attic space. And then from there, you could go any part of the building.
Yep.
You absolutely could.
You have to think that if authorities had some suspicion as to whether this was an insurance fraud scheme or something, if they had any doubts as to whether John was actually dead or not, all they would have to do is do some surveillance from the ocean in a ship or something. Go out there in a boat and surveil because that the windows facing the ocean were going to be, curtains would be, open most of the time. And you would clearly see John wandering around the house and stuff, I would imagine.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm sure they were more careful than that, though. True. Didn't they pass him off as like a repairman or something?
Well, yeah,
Someone who was doing some work on the house a few times when he was caught.
Exactly. When anyone would come over to do repairs on the home, John was even brazen enough to stay in the home and act as though he was a fellow, repairman working on the house as well at the same time.
Right.
But the repair guys that would come to work on things said that John would, he wasn't going by John as, his Anne's husband or anything. He was going by a repairman. But the guy was way too curious and pushy as to what the other repairman was doing. John was like all up in their business. And they just found it odd that he cared so much. If he was just a repairman working on something else, why is he all up in their business?
Why? It's like, bro, don't you have your own repairs to do? What the hell?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. I've done that before. That can get weird. I've worked on properties where other people were there, like maybe electricians there or the plumbers there while you're doing different type of work.
Bro, just stay out of my way. I'll stay out of yours.
Yeah, exactly. Or they try to get work out of you. It's like, hey, bro, while you're over there, could
you're
you
using the power tool and the electrician
socket
cuts the power off in the middle of your cutting something.
You son of a bitch. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I could see how they kind of butt heads a lot already. I can only imagine if one of the repairmen owned the house.
Right. Yeah, so John didn't always stay hidden away, though. He regularly limped down to the beach to the Seton Carew Library. Sometime within that first year, a tenant of the block of flats that the Darwins owned, the rooms that they were renting out, a guy named Lee Wadrup, recognized Darwin and asked him, "Aren't you supposed to be dead?" To which Darwin replied, "Don't tell anyone about this." So he got busted, and Wadrup later said that he had not told the police because he didn't want to get involved. So nothing to see here.
That.
Not my business.
Yeah,
I
think I would have done the same thing. Well, here's the thing, too. If he's renting from the guy that's supposed to be dead, he's like, I don't want to turn him in because if he gets arrested and all his assets get taken, then where am I going to live? Yeah, where am I going to live?
That's true.
So, and also now you have something on your landlord. It's like, hey, by the way, John, I don't have rent this month.
What are you going to do about it, bitch?
So, fuck you, you're dead. So,
limp your ass away, motherfucker.
Yeah.
I can only say that because he's fake limping, okay? I'm not.
Right. But yeah, definitely. You could definitely hold that over his head.
Yeah. So meanwhile, in April of 2003, a death certificate was issued stating that Darwin had died on March 21st, 2002. John and Anne's sons were completely unaware during this time of their father's and mother's scheme and believed that he was dead. For many years, the next 5.5 years, they believed that their father was dead. And that's what I mean by the mother being completely guilty in this and implicated in it. Is she went along with this and let her own sons believe that their father was dead just for money.
So I guess they would be considered the victims of this whole crime to me.
Yeah.
That's bullshit. That's really fucking with someone's head right there. That's a good way to get separated from them for your whole life.
No doubt.
Mm.
Yep. And they would later write their parents off. So
yeah, understandably so. I mean, you got time for that shit.
Yep. And so, as was John's plan all along, this whole scheme was working, and this allowed his wife to claim the life insurance policies that were all on him. There was a £25,000 insurance policy for his basic life insurance. There was a $25,000 pound teacher's pension, £58,000 prison service pension, as well as $4,000 in payouts from the Department of Work and Pensions, and the big one, £137,000 payout from the Norwich Union mortgage insurance policy. So basically, their home was paid off, or now Anne's home was paid off in lieu of her husband's death. So no mortgage on that big ass house anymore, and some money in the bank to go with it. The total was £249,000 that they were paid out.
Wow.
So I'm guessing it paid for number 3, but not number 4 because that wasn't their primary residence.
Right.
So they still probably had a debt to pay on that one, but now she had quite a bit of money sitting in the bank.
Yeah, now you could renovate number 4 and get somebody in there and start making money on that thing.
Exactly. Get your husband's his fake personality out of there as well. That's the only problem with renting that one out is then where does John have to go when company shows up?
Yeah, that's true. He's got nowhere to hide.
Yeah. So John was now spending his time constructing his new identity, scouring graveyards and local newspapers until he came upon the name of John Jones, a name he first used when he registered with the library and began borrowing books. The real John Jones, this part's fucked up. I mean, I guess there's more victims in regards to this. because the real John Jones was born 5 months before Darwin on March 27th, 1950, at his grand's home in Sunderland. He was the son of a river worker, Alfred John Jones, and his wife Lily. And this John Jones that John Darwin would be stealing the identity from was a 5-year-old baby that had actually passed away at 5 weeks. 5 weeks.
5 week old baby. Yes.
5-week-old baby that had died at the Center for Infectious Diseases from enteritis, which is actually an inflammation of the small intestine. It's most commonly caused by food or drink contaminated with pathogenic microbes. So this baby had died, sadly, at 5 weeks old. And now John Darwin, 50 years later, after the baby had died, is stealing this baby's identity.
Okay, who is the victim here?
The family, I guess. I mean, the documentary we watched, which I guess we can bring up real quick.
Yeah, we definitely
made you. They sold the whole concept that the family of the baby that had died 50 years prior was the victims. The documentary we watched was called "Back from the Dead: The John Darwin Story." It's a full documentary by Real Crime. You can find it on YouTube.
Right. Okay. Am I being? If I am, just please tell me. Am I being insensitive and not understanding why this family is so distraught? It's not the parents of the child, because surely they're dead by now.
Yeah, it was 50 years ago.
Right. So you're talking
not dead,
about
then they're very extremely old.
Right. So we're talking about siblings of this 5-week-old infant that passed that no one ever knew. Is now heartbroken. I'm seriously trying to understand this. When the documentary fed it to me, like, I'm supposed to be sad. I'm supposed to be like, wow, what a horrible monster, stole an infant's identity. But I'm like, wouldn't it be worse if he stole an alive person's identity? Someone.
That's how John looked at it. John Darwin was like, I'm not hurting anyone by stealing an identity of someone, a person that's been dead for 50 years.
That's what I mean. What
as opposed
what bad
to really
memories?
creating a headache by stealing someone who's alive's identity.
Yeah, I don't understand why this hurts the family. I feel like they kind of just wanted.
Not only that, the family didn't even have to know, really. I mean, the siblings of
it matter?
The siblings 50 years later don't need to know. It's especially since they caught the person, and it's like, why bring that grief, if there is grief involved, to them unnecessarily?
Yeah,
it's much
that's
to
what
do
I'm
about
saying.
nothing. Nothing's gonna. I mean, I don't know. I'm with you. You're not. I don't think you're being insensitive, but.
Okay, because I just didn't get it. I'm sitting there looking at it, and I was watching it with my wife, and I'm looking at her, and I'm going, what is the big deal here? Why does this hurt this family? I mean, my mother had a miscarriage when I was like 13, 14 years old, and I don't miss that baby. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't understand how it affects. I do understand how it affects parents. Don't get me wrong. But like I said, the parents are past. We're talking about siblings, maybe cousins of the family. They had like 8 to 9 people in a room. I'm like, who are these people?
Yeah, and they were all maybe in their early 50s.
Maybe.
So they were kids when this baby was born.
Died. Yes, when this baby was born and died, they were just babies, most likely, or not even born. So I'm like, what? Where is the crime? Where is the? Because they're talking about John like, what a piece of shit. Who would steal a dead baby's identity? I'm like, well, I mean, he was going to steal somebody's. There's people all the time that steal people's identity and drain their bank accounts.
He's a piece of shit for stealing anyone's identity, dead or alive. He's a piece of shit, regardless, for faking his death to get life insurance payout. He's a piece of shit. There's no denying it. But to act like he's more of a piece of shit for stealing a dead baby's identity. It just, anytime you hear dead baby, it sounds bad. Let's be honest about that.
Well,
that's just the fact of the matter.
Right. But that dead baby doesn't care that John took his identity, nor does any of those family members. I think if it's really put down, if we're really getting down to brass tacks here, I think once they get done with the interview, they go on about their life and they take their money they made and they go on shopping.
I was going to say they may have been trying to sell grief in order to get a lawsuit going against John for grief.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's very possible. It's very possible.
And it's also possible things affect different people differently. You know, it's obviously a tragedy when a 5-week-old baby dies. It's horrible. So it's terrible. As parents, we can only imagine how bad that must be. And if you're the sibling, like let's say if my son who's 3, if he, if we had another kid right now and the kid was 5 weeks old, my son would become quite attached to his younger sibling, and if they passed away, that would be terrible. And my son would be sad. But 50 years from now, Yeah, you wouldn't think that someone stealing the identity of that child at that point would affect them all that much. I don't know. Maybe it just brings back the grief of maybe you re-experience losing that child again. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe that's more what it's about than anything.
Right.
I don't know.
Okay.
So we definitely talked about that enough. Nonetheless, John Darwin used John Jones's name to get a birth certificate. He then used the birth certificate accompanied by a black and white photo of himself sporting a long bushy beard, a photograph which a librarian signed to authenticate, as he was he was a regular customer at this time to the library, and he used that photo with the birth certificate to get a passport. He even used his wife's home address to get the passport. So he's taking some stupid risks here, connecting himself to this fake identity now by using his wife's home address,
right?
His former home address. Having created a new identity, John now spent much of his time exploring the internet. This part of the story caught me off guard. I didn't expect this at all. He's an older guy. I just didn't picture him being a type of guy to be into role-playing games, and this is where his life goes now. He ends up spending much of his time exploring the internet and playing an interactive role-playing game called Asheron's Call, which I've never heard of, but it sounds a little bit like World of Warcraft or something.
Okay.
It's an interactive online game where thousands of players inhabit a beautiful 3D fantasy world to make friends and seek out perilous adventure. Sounds much like World of Warcraft, which I've never played, but I know that tons of people become obsessed with that game because it's so interactive with other humans. And
yes, it is. Yeah, it's very much like World of Warcraft. It looks like it says it was owned by Microsoft until 2004. So I don't know if people are still making it or I don't know. That's interesting. Oh yeah, you can still get it. You can still get it, man. That's interesting.
Nice. So John's wife, Anne, later said that the people that played it became characters in the world. They had money. They could buy and sell things. They could buy and sell property. No wonder John liked it so much. He probably became the mogul that he wanted to be in real life in this game.
Well, you got to think he couldn't go out. He just couldn't go out and be part of a community. So he's like, I'm going to do it this way.
Yeah. And apparently you could even cast spells on another within the game. John played a druid, and one of the people he came up against was Kelly Steele, a woman who was thrice married and in her 40s, living in Kansas City in the U.S. Shout out to Kansas City, all our Kansas City creepers.
Hell yeah, KC.
Yeah. Kelly Steele might be a Kansas City creeper. Who knows? He communicated with her by email and then by telephone, keeping his conversations concealed from his wife by wearing headphones. And he ended up trying to create like a business relationship with this Kelly Steele. He wanted her to buy an old derelict 10-acre farm in Kansas City on John's behalf where she could fix it up, and then together they could go into business. I don't know if it was like actually selling stuff from the farm or if it was renting out the farm itself.
No,
I don't know.
I think he just bought this nice farm property with a dilapidated home on it, and he wanted her to renovate it, and then he was going to resell and then flip the property or rent the property out, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that's
and
what
so he actually
for.
sends, I think, 30,000 pounds to her to have her start work on this farm that they would purchase the farm and then get to work on it. Mm-hmm. And then he actually goes there, flies to Kansas City and meets with this Kelly Steele. She invites him into her home, having already received the money from him. She knows that he's legit and that they're actually going to try this business partnership out.
Right.
And however, within 10 minutes of him being in her home, where she had her family, she had kids and whatnot, she gives him a room, and she's walking down like by the hallway, and at the end of the hallway was the open door of the room that she let him stay in, and he's basically undressing for the whole house to see within the first 10 minutes. It's like, and she's like, I don't know how you do things in your country, but in America we don't dress in front of other families, undress in front of families we just met like this.
Right, we just met him.
So I don't know if he had some other intentions here other than just a business partnership, if he was hoping for a romantic relationship with Kelly.
Right.
It's hard to not think that when you see that story from Kelly.
This is where this documentary just takes a turn, y'all. You think this guy John is just some boring guy who was in money trouble, but he's got some other dark secrets. He's got some other shit that he's hiding, right?
If you believe Kelly and her story, yeah, you would say this guy's a real fucking dangerous criminal, because not only does he undress in her home within minutes of meeting her, but then she kicks him out and makes him go to a hotel, and they were going to continue their business partnership or whatever. But it starts getting to the point where she's like, he's just too demanding and he's basically being a dick and nobody in this town likes him and they want him gone. And so she basically asks him to leave. And upon him leaving, he starts writing her emails saying basically death threats, saying, I'll kill you, I'll kill your animals, I'll do this, I'll do that. A bunch of pretty serious threats.
Right. Yeah, he's crazy, bro.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, this stuff comes out of nowhere, but he has a lot at stake here. He really needs her to proceed, and this business venture cannot fail.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, because he already faked his death. He can't do it again. So what he has financially now is all he's going to get unless he can turn it into something else.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Yeah. So nonetheless, John slunk back to Seton Carew, having lost 30,000 pounds on this venture, and once more he was cooped up in the number 4, the cliff. But he continued to search for his next destination and his next scheme, basically. And in 2004, the Darwins back together. I mean, basically, he convinced when he'd gone to Kansas City, he'd convinced his wife he was just going on a business trip or whatever. But when he comes back, now they're going to start doing things together again. The Darwins decided to move abroad in 2004. In November, they visited Cyprus to investigate buying a property there. Cyprus, officially called the Republic of Cyprus, is an island country in the eastern Mediterranean. It's the third largest and third most populous island in the Mediterranean. It's located north of Egypt, northwest of Lebanon, Palestine, and Israel, west of Syria, southeast of Greece, and south of Turkey. So it's in the Mediterranean area.
If you can't pinpoint it on that, you don't know maps.
Yeah, exactly. It's a little island in the Mediterranean.
I love all those descriptions you put in there. Northwest of Lebanon, Palestine, and Israel, and west of Syria, southeast of Greece. And if you still don't know, it's south of Turkey. So.
Yeah, well, if I'm being honest, I was not all that keen on Cyprus. It was not something that...
No, I agree. I agree 100%.
I knew there's cypress trees. I wasn't really aware of the country.
Yeah. Nice. Okay. Well, we definitely cleared it up. We know exactly where it is now.
Good. Yeah, you can pinpoint it in your mind, right?
That's right. Yep. I know exactly where it is.
Good.
Okay.
So Anne would later say, we only went for a week and we looked at quite a few properties, but it just seemed to take too long to do anything over there. Yeah. So in 2005, John traveled to Spain and Gibraltar to view a 60-foot catamaran worth 45,000 pounds. So now their new plan was going to be to sail the seas. Why not? That's a good escape plan. Be in international waters, hard to, track who you are. Basically live like pirates. They can live out there and stock up on food.
In a yacht.
Make quick little stops in cities and grab up on supplies and
head back out.
Yeah, the quote, the sort of boat he was looking at was definitely a boat you could have happily go long-term cruising on, possibly around the world, and certainly disappear from society if you wanted to. But by the end of 2005, the Darwins decided that life at sea was not for them, and they began preparing to buy some land abroad. Wouldn't that be kind of ironic, though, if that's how he lived out the rest of his years? He had basically supposedly died at sea, but instead, in reality, he was out sailing the open seas in a ship he had gotten insurance money from his fake death. That'd be actually a pretty gangster move.
Well, it would be, but I think in a way it would become its own form of punishment, having to live your life out on sea. It's like okay, well, if you say you died out there, then you better stay.
Even more ironic would be if he just jumped into the ocean at a certain point because he just got sick of it and he's like, I'm going to do what I originally said I did.
I'm just going to go ahead and drown now.
Yeah.
Good luck, Anne.
Yeah. Yeah. Here's another quote from Anne about this time. She said, he was forever looking at new things and new places on the internet, and one day he just came up with Panama. Panama.
Right. Hey, there's no rules, right? It's like kind of a Wild West out there in Panama. They're kind of more secretive. You got a little more privacy. At least that's what the documentary led me to believe.
That's where all old kind of thieves seem to run to, places like that in Central America and South America. They run to these forests or jungles.
Okay.
Don't you think?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's either there or Florida.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's the way it described it. It described it as like this kind of open land where, the banking system is private and kept away from international fingers, and eyes.
Yeah.
So it seemed like the perfect. Not only did it seem like the perfect place, it seemed one of the only few places that John and Anne could go now to get away. I mean, they had to find some place like this.
Yeah, supposedly they fell in love with this giant property they found that was basically jungle, and like I forget how many acres they said it was.
Dude, it was like
over
400. It was
yeah.
like 420 something acres, and then they bought it for like 200,000 pounds, which is insanely cheap.
Yeah.
So that is,
but
oh man,
fucking ridiculous amount of work. Like to do anything with that. We remember we heard how much work it was for Jim Jones's crew to down in Guyana when they had to make that into that commune that they made down there. The amount of work it took years to uproot a lot of that, that jungle terrain that's just so ingrained there that the machinery was breaking, and it was just like to do anything with that type of land is really tough.
Oh,
I don't
absolutely.
know how John and his wife Ann figured they were going to work this land and make a home there out of it.
No, that kind of land right there, to me, it seems like you got to kind of do what the land tells you. You kind of build in clear
build around
areas.
it, right? Or build with it, work with it.
Yes. You
build a fucking
with
tree house or something. I don't know.
Exactly. You do what the fuck that land tells you to do, or you're going to be fighting real hard.
Especially when you're in your latter years and you're not going to be uprooting these trees yourself. You're going to have to pay somebody.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, so it seemed that they had made their dreams of living out of their remaining years in paradise a reality. When in 2006 of July, they flew out to Central America. They fell in love with that property and purchased it, like you said, for 200,000 pounds. However, on their first trip to Panama, they allowed a photograph to be taken of them standing smiling happily next to the owner and director of Move to Panama, Mario Villar. So this guy snaps a quick, pulls out a camera. It's like, hey, let's get a picture. You guys are buying this property down in Panama. And they're like just mortified. They're like, oh, fuck. This guy just quickly, asked us for this picture. They did. It was too awkward to say no. And of course, this picture would come back to bite them in the ass.
Of course. I don't like this shit. I don't like when businesses want to put you on their social media and they don't give you a choice.
Right.
You know what I mean? For instance, there's this small time guitar shop. It's in a town about 30 minutes from me, and it's an amazing guitar shop. All kinds of any kind of musical artists that come through the area, they always stop there. It's a very cool place, and they have tons of guitars that I'm interested in. But I don't want to go buy one there because I don't want to stand against their stupid board and have my picture taken and be put on their social media and look like a douche.
You don't think you can just say, I don't want to take a picture?
It doesn't look like it. It doesn't look like it. It looks like pretty much every damn person that goes through there.
I'm currently on the run. I'm presumed dead. You can't take my picture.
Right.
Just tell them that.
Okay. Right. That should do it. That's what John should have said here in hindsight.
I'm just kidding, of course. But yeah, don't take my picture.
But in 2006, to be fair, every photo wasn't going on the internet. It wasn't known that it was going on the internet.
But they did say it was going to be for their website, though, to be fair.
Oh, well, there you go. My bad. Yeah, you guys really dropped the ball on that one. Yeah. But otherwise, in 2006, and even then, a picture on their website didn't seem that damning until someone started searching for them. It's not like
it's a pretty niche
on their
thing.
Social media.
Pretty niche thing for someone to find.
Yeah.
Someone would have to search for it, which they ended up doing.
Of course.
It wasn't directly this they got them caught, but this was kind of the nail in the coffin. It proved that they were, It
really started
criminals.
the discussion. It started the discussion.
So in March of 2007, the couple formed a company called Jaguar Properties in order to buy a 2-bedroom apartment in El Dorado for 50,000 pounds. The following month, Anne returned to the UK to sell her home while Darwin remained in Panama. So now they can come up with a lot more income as well. They already had the payouts from the life insurance and whatnot. Mm-hmm. But now they could, if they're moving to Panama, they can sell their properties in England and make a pretty good chunk of money, especially since they owned number 3 outright after the insurance paying that off, so they could get all that money.
Right.
And then they could use that money on their property down in Panama and expand. And of course, that's what they had goals of doing, is becoming real estate tycoons now in Panama. They couldn't just live out their life on their nice big jungle land and build a nice home there.
You can grow anything in Panama as well. It's like, what do you want to grow? Just fucking plant it. And you can
they probably wouldn't even need to. There's probably so much food if you looked around their jungle property. It's probably like endless coconuts or whatever.
Yeah, banana trees,
yeah,
mangoes, shit like that grows tropical. You could probably just plant pineapples. I mean, they take like 2 years to grow, but still.
Yeah.
You could plant. You could do anything in that property.
But it was never enough for John.
But that's not what they wanted. That's not the life
they wanted to take over Panama, it sounds like.
Yeah, they were never satisfied.
Yeah.
Oh, damn.
And so in 2007, they purchased a 200,000-pound tropical estate in the village of Escobal, Colon, Panama, near the Panama Canal, with the intention of building a hotel from where the canoeing holidays could be run. So, and John would later say that this was a fabrication of the media to make this story more elaborate. The whole canoeing thing, they were going to run this canoeing service from a hotel that they had. And he was like, people just added that in because I supposedly died in a canoe, and they thought it'd be, make the story more interesting. But I don't know. I buy it. I believe it.
So you think he was going to start a canoeing thing?
Yeah. Why wouldn't he?
Yeah.
He's a cocky bastard.
Yeah, he's the canoe man.
He knows canoeing. He's done it before. I mean, I feel like...
It makes sense. It makes sense.
Yep. So John and Anne visited Panama again. They're going back and forth between England and Panama at this time. And in July of 2007, they stayed for 6 weeks in Panama because, they don't have a home necessarily yet. They have this big property, but there's still a lot of stuff to be done.
Well, they're living in that 2-bedroom apartment that they bought in Panama for $50,000. That's where
temporary.
they're living right now. Yeah.
And then they've got affairs to take care of in England, obviously. Mm-hmm. I think most of the time Anne was traveling to England and he was staying in Panama. It's a lot safer for them not to travel together and be seen together and whatnot.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt.
And so, and it was around this time that a police investigation was started. In September of 2007, when a colleague of Anne became suspicious upon overhearing a phone conversation between John and Anne. And so this investigation is underway now, and the Darwin family home ended up being sold for £295,000 in October 2007, and Anne subsequently left for Panama. Man, that's a good chunk of chains there.
Yes, it is, especially in Panama.
No doubt, yeah.
Damn, you could buy 400 acres with that, apparently. Yeah. And now you got it again, and you already own the huge 400-acre lot.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
they can really get to work on their hotel and start.
Seriously, they really could.
So in the third week of November, the couple vacationed in Costa Rica before returning to Panama. And following a change in Panama's, this is what did them in right here. So Panama at this time, they create a change in their laws, their visa laws. And Darwin would email his wife Anne on June 14th, 2007 to notify her that their identities would have to be verified by the UK police in order for them to receive now required Panama investors' visas.
And guys, this is what you will not learn in the documentary. This little fact right here is huge. And
the biggest thing that got them caught. This was...
Seriously. And
John now knows the jig's up. He can't stay in Panama without proving his identity further by the UK, and he's not able to do that because he knows his John Jones identity is not going to hold up under scrutiny in UK.
That's right. That's right. And they
really
totally gloss over this in the documentary. It's totally glossed over.
Yep.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, so knowing that his John Jones alias would not pass this level of scrutiny in England, John Darwin decided to return to the UK, and this is where the story blows up in England because he returns to the UK under his real name and just reappears, walks into a police station and says that he thinks that he suffered some amnesia, and he basically tried to play the whole routine that he didn't know what had happened, how he disappeared. And
just
of course,
like
police
Walter
are very
White.
skeptical right away. Yeah,
exactly. Remember when he had that void state?
Yeah.
What do you call it? Whatever you call it.
Where he wandered off in the desert.
Yeah, he wandered off naked in the gas station.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Yeah, I walked into a gas station naked.
Now, that's how you sell it right there. Now, that does look like an insane person. That is how you sell it. But.
And so on December 1st, 2007, Darwin walked into the West End Central Police Station in London claiming to have no memory of the past 5 years. His wife, Anne, had to really tap into her actress abilities now. His wife, Anne, who had sold up her British properties and moved to Panama 3 months before the reappearance, expressed surprise, joy, and elation at the return of her missing husband.
I bet.
Oh, my God.
I bet. That's got to be so weird.
Yeah. So the UK police,
5 years?
meanwhile, they look and they see that Anne's been just spending up this money, living it up, which is,
whatever. Whatever you got to do to distract yourself.
Yeah, why wouldn't she? But now it doesn't look so good. So the UK police by that time had already suspected that Darwin may have not been dead since Anne, despite portraying herself as a broken-hearted widow, took foreign holidays, planned to sell the family home in Hartlepool and moved to Panama and transferred large sums of money abroad. A police financial investigation had already begun 3 months prior to Darwin's reappearance, following a tip from one of Anne's colleagues, as we mentioned, reconnecting her claim to her husband's life insurance and subsequent immigration to Panama. So they were already looking into her, and so they're very suspicious when all of a sudden John just walks into the police station claiming to have no memory of 5 straight years. Like, where have you been then? What have you been up to?
What have you
for
been
5
doing?
years?
Bro, 5 years? Yeah. There's no way you live normally and just don't remember anything for 5 years without going into a hospital, going into a social services office, something to try to figure out some information.
Exactly.
No, 5 years, that's some bullshit. Like, if he would have come back after 3 months, maybe now you have a chance. But 5 years, nah.
Yeah, and what sparked you to go into the police station after 5 years if you hadn't for the prior 4 years? You know, what was it all of a sudden? You'd think by now you would just have started a new life and just forgotten about your old one.
Yeah, you totally forgot about everything if you truly had amnesia.
Yeah. And so the Darwin's cover story unraveled after the photo that they had taken at the travel agency really came back to bite him. This is where it's concrete evidence that he was lying, that his wife was lying, because the Daily Mirror would go on to publish a photo of the Darwins that had been taken in Panama in 2006, where they are standing together, smiling, happy about their purchase in Panama of their property.
Yep. Thrilled.
And this photo surfaced after a member of a public search engine searched for the words John, Ann, and Panama in Google Images, and they found the photo.
There you go. Dude, if it's out there, Google will find it, bro.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. That's heartbreaking.
So, after someone found that photo by connecting those 3 keywords, the photo was brought to the attention of the Daily Mirror. I'm sure that person that found that photo got a nice little payout from the Daily Mirror.
Oh, for sure.
It was made public, and then the Cleveland police got a hold of it, and Ann reportedly pretty much cracked right away, confirmed that the photograph was of John, saying, "Yes, that's him. My sons will never forgive me." So she knows the jig's up, and now they have to pay the piper. It's time. And so the police would then arrest John Darwin at his son Anthony's house. So I guess he finally went to see his son after all these years. You imagine the surprise. I wonder if he just knocked on the door of his son's house, and there's his dad that's supposed to have been dead for the last 5 years.
Oh, I know, right? How does that conversation start?
How does that go down, right?
So
How are
at
you
least
not
he had time.
Livid. Well, maybe he
At
just
least
told his son the same thing that he told the police, that he had
That's what I was about to
amnesia.
say. Oh, no. I think he told his son the truth.
Do you? I would hope so.
Yeah. I feel like 5 years after the fact, you're caught now, you know about the photo. I think, if anything, he's going to his son's house to alleviate the damage, which at this point is impossible. Yeah, I think it's impossible to try to mend that relationship now, which really sucks because neither one of them did a whole lot of jail time in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah. I don't know, man. See, like, I don't know what kind of relationship that his sons had with him throughout their childhood and up into their adulthood.
Right.
But like, I'm thinking about it. Like, if I try to put myself in their shoes, let's say my dad disappears right now. You know, he's been a great father for 33 years. I'm 33 now. If he just without telling, if my mom was part of this scheme and convinced me that he was dead and whatnot, I think after 5 years I would just be happy to see him and I would forgive him. I do, but that's because he's a great dad for 30. I would just kind of like understand, like, okay, well, I'm an adult now. You did your part in raising me and making me into a man, and this was done for you. And I would forgive him, but that's just me.
I would too.
My relationship with my dad, so I don't know. I can't speak.
Yeah.
Maybe he wasn't the greatest father to begin with to them, and if he's such a selfish person to do something like this, I could see it's hard for me to believe that he was a great father.
But here's the thing, though. I feel like if my dad did something like that, I feel like he would contact me somehow and let me in on the loop at least.
But by doing that, you're then implicated, and that puts you at risk as well.
That's true, but damn, bro. Like, imagine the grief. Like, if you truly think your dad is dead, imagine what you're going to go through for years.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not going to harbor a little bit of resentment towards him?
Right.
I don't know. I feel like you would.
Oh, there would definitely be some resentment, but I think I would ultimately forgive him.
Yeah, well, ultimately, if he comes back into your life, then the only way to move forward is forgiveness. Like, what's done is done, right? But it's still going to damage that relationship greatly. And like you said, if John didn't have a good relationship with his son already, it could have diminished it pretty easily.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, so a police investigation discovered that John Darwin had been using a false passport by the name of John Jones. So they figured all this stuff out finally, and an identity that had belonged to the baby in Sunderland who had died in 1950. And upon examining the false passport, police found that Darwin had made several trips to Panama in the past 5 years. And so everything's unraveling, all they'd been up to for the past 5 years. And Darwin's two sons initially expressed elation at the return of their father, but as the story unfolded, they issued a joint statement stating that they had felt that they had been victims of a scam and implying that they wished to have no further contact with their parents. So they were basically writing off their parents. We're done with them.
Right.
And both sons reported to have changed their jobs prior to their father's reappearance as well. On December 6th, one of Darwin's sons allegedly disappeared after clearing out his North London flat and leaving a notebook containing coded messages for his girlfriend as well as directions for her to get to a London City airport. Police emphasized that he was not suspected of any crime, so it sounds like they just wanted to get away from this whole thing.
Yeah. Yep.
Later that day, John Darwin was charged with obtaining life insurance money by deception and making untrue statements to obtain a passport. And Darwin was arrested at Manchester Airport the following day upon returning to the UK and detained in connection with the allegations of fraud. And the timeline of their subsequent charges would go on. March 13, 2008, John would plead guilty to 7 charges of obtaining cash by deception and 1 of passport offense, and denies 6 charges of deception and 9 of using criminal property. That's weird to me that she would deny
I know.
at this point. And then on July 23rd, 2008, Anne was convicted at the Teesside Crown Court, found guilty of helping to fake her husband's own death. John was sentenced. What's up?
I'm sorry. I just wanted to interrupt real quick. You're talking about the March of 2008 thing where she denied 6 charges. At that point, she may have been going under the influence of her lawyers, probably telling her to, implicate John as much as you can because he's fucked. Like, he's the one that did this. So
right.
Any way that you can say that you were made to do this or that you were, told or forced to do this.
And it's also possible that if she had any communication with John, knowing that they did love each other, that it's possible that he told her just blame it all on me. I'll take the brunt of it or whatever. It's very possible.
Yeah, I think he was totally prepared to do that as well. And I think her lawyers were like, listen, if that's what John wants you to do, then that's what you should do.
And honestly, that's the vibe I got from the interviews. When you watch the documentary, when you see them both being interviewed by police, it's videotaped.
Yeah.
The vibe I got from both of them was John was taking full culpability. He was basically had sequestered the whole concept of him being just this scumbag, and it seemed like he took that on. Like everything the police asked him, he's like, yeah, I did it for my own good. I'm an asshole, basically. Meanwhile, Anne, it seemed like she was trying her best to kind of blame it on her husband, but I have a feeling that was a pre-planned thing. Maybe they'd even talked about it in years prior. Like, look, if we ever get caught, blame this shit on me. This was my idea, and I want you to be able to be there for our sons still if they're willing. So
no doubt. And then also, for whatever assets they have left.
That's another thing too.
If Anne doesn't get arrested, it would be nice to have her to manage those assets, someone you trust on the outside.
Yep. And she ends up using those assets because she is granted basically all of their assets eventually when she's released, and she uses those to pay back pretty much most of everything she was forced to pay in retribution.
Well, you got to think if they had any brains at all, everything that they bought during this whole 5-year span had to go into Anne's name. You can't put anything in John's name. You can't put anything in John Jones' name. So you have to put everything in Anne's name. So she, she had everything. So you could see why they wanted to protect her. Like, that's a smart move there. It's like everything's in your name, Anne. Like, you can't take blame for this. Right. I get that.
Yeah. Yeah, so July 23rd, 2008, Anne was convicted at Teesside Crown Court, found guilty of helping to fake her husband's death. John was sentenced to 6 years and 3 months at Moorland Open Prison in Doncaster, South Yorkshire. His wife, Anne, was sentenced to 6 years and 6 months, so she actually got 3 months more than him.
I know.
In sentences.
I guess because she lied, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's the only thing I can think of.
Maybe they figured out what they were trying to do.
They threw the book at her. Yeah, they threw the book at her because they're like, well, you fucking lied to us for months.
Yeah.
And John came out with the truth, even though that was their plan.
Yeah.
It's just hard to argue with that picture she took of him. It's like, this is all we need right here.
They're smiling, happy.
Yeah.
Happy about their purchase they made off the insurance scam they did.
Right.
Yeah. So Yeah, so they spent their time in prison. John Darwin was released from prison and returned to Seton Carew in January of 2011, and 2 months later, in March of 2011, Ann Darwin was released from prison. At this time, John admits that he wanted his wife back, and a source who was friends with Mr. Darwin tells people that, quote, he would have her back tomorrow, and he is quite concerned about what happens to her when she comes out of prison. I'm sure because she has all of the assets in. Part of it's got to be that as well. He has nothing now, and she has basically everything.
Right.
And they both owe a shitload of money for what they've done. It wasn't just prison time; they owed back all of the money.
Right.
And so she has the ability to pay a lot of it back, if not all of her share, and he has no ability to do that. So on April 2014, it was reported that John had repaid just 121 pounds of the 679,073 pounds that the judge had ordered him to repay. So he's really chipping away at it there. 121.
Watch out now. Damn.
But as we mentioned, this was all because the assets were in Ann Darwin's name, and by July 2015, the pair had no longer had any assets, having repaid a total of 541,762 pounds.
Damn, I'd call it even at that point, bro. I mean, they did time in prison, and they have no assets left, and they paid it all back, but 100,000 pounds. Like, I know that's a lot, but in the grand scheme of things, I feel like they paid. They paid for this.
And John, he cared a lot about how he was viewed and whether he, had money and all that stuff. And now it's like their names are completely ruined. Everyone knows he's a fraud. And
yeah. That's what
I'm
saying.
Yeah, I do think they've paid for sure.
Overall, they paid for this crime. And it was, I don't know, I just don't think it was as treacherous, and they're just the horrible people that the documentary made them out to be. I think they was just in a weak moment, and they saw an opportunity, and they saw what they thought was going to be a victimless crime. I really don't think they ever envisioned the full-scale search that went on for John. I don't think they envisioned any of that for some reason. I don't know why.
Right.
That's how we search for people. I mean, all around the world, if somebody goes missing in the ocean, there's going to be a full-scale search. I mean, that's pretty typical.
Exactly.
But I just think they just didn't think it through, man. They just saw that they had an opportunity here, and it was their last chance. And like you said, they were so concerned about the way they looked to the community, what filing bankruptcy would look. But now look at you.
Yep.
It's like filing bankruptcy, you would already be recovering. You're already, 7+ years. And, bankruptcy sticks with you, 7 to 10 years, something like that.
Yeah.
I think, and then you kind of get to recover. So instead of getting out of prison in 2011, you would have been recovering financially, hopefully, if you made the right decisions by 2011, or at least got back on track. But you're back at square one. So, like I said, I think they got everything they deserved. I think they paid for their crimes fully, which is something you can't typically say in a true crime thing.
They're assholes, and they did some really selfish shit, and they deserved what they got for sure.
Yeah.
But maybe we're jaded by the fact that most of the episodes we do are just like heinous, like last week when we did the Patreon exclusive, we did what's his face?
Rodney
Alcala, the dating game killer, who's just an absolute monster. And so, like, going from him to these guys, we're just like, yeah, they got what they got. Faked his death. They scammed insurance companies, and that's what you get.
Yeah, that is what they get. I think they paid for that. I think they paid for that enough.
Yeah.
I go easy on the scam artists, especially when the victim is like insurance companies and big companies.
Right.
I'm like,
because really on a large scale, they seem to be scamming
them.
all of us.
They are scamming all of us. That's just the way it is.
Yeah, go try and put in a claim and actually get what they're supposed to be giving you when you need it, and see how hard it is to get it.
Fuck those big companies. Work with little companies.
They always try to find any way to not pay you any chance they can.
That's right.
Even though you pay them every month.
Yeah, they're full of shit. That's why we like to keep it local, keep it small business, like Oh My Gaia, guys. That is where it's at. That's directly helping someone who is directly helping the world by giving us an amazing product that they love to make. Oh My Gaia is an innovative, all-natural deodorant, fragrance, and beard oil company specializing in paraben and aluminum-free products. Their innovative line of deodorants inhibit the growth of odor-causing bacteria while maintaining effectiveness. At Oh My Gaia, they use only all-natural, paraben, and aluminum-free organic ingredients. Guys, there's definitely a scent that would fit your style, from vanilla to cherry almond, sandalwood, lavender, lemongrass, Egyptian musk, coconut, dreamsicle, leather, lumberjack, honeysuckle, fireside, pear. Pear is a staple. You hear me and Lauren talk about pear a lot. That is a staple now that anyone can get. That is in the lineup at Oh My Gaia. So if you haven't had pear, guys, come on, get in on that scent. It's a very fresh scent. It's great. Also, we have our very own scent called True Crime Pine. Has our old school first edition podcast logo on there with the mug shots. True Crime Pine, guys. It's like a sweet pine cinnamon smell. It's unisex like most of these scents are. You really can't go wrong. And because you guys are True Crime Guys listeners, you can use the code CREEPER, CREEPER, for 15% off your order. And you can do that at shop_ohmygaia on Instagram or ohmygaia.com. That's OHMYGAIA.com, guys. You won't regret it. Use code word CREEPER. Thanks, guys.
Right on. Let's do some, we got some shout outs to catch up on as far as people that have gone and rated and reviewed the show. Because we did a Patreon exclusive last week. We'll talk about Patreon in a minute. But that's why we didn't put out an episode on the main feed last week. And so
actually, we did. We put out a freeloader episode, remember, for Christmas.
Oh, we did. Okay. Yeah, I forgot about that. Well, did you do shout outs on that one, though?
I did not.
Okay, well, there you go. So the last 2 weeks, the people that have gone and rated and reviewed the show, I want to give a shout out to Obsessed4 in Great Britain. Hey, we just did a case for you. Actually, our first two here are from Great Britain. And this Obsessed4 CBXO said, love your podcast, funny and interesting, laughing out loud when I'm working. Colleagues think I'm crazy, from North London. Shout out. Actually, this case was Northeast London, wasn't it? Or no, not London. It was Northeast England, so that's quite a bit north of London.
Right.
And then we got Ella Dachi in Great Britain. Said, amazing, sending freeloader love from the UK. Always look forward to hearing your take on cases which are very well researched and entertaining. Thank you.
Right.
And we got Molly McD in the US. Said, love the show. Listening, it's like listening to friends and really getting a chuckle when they crack themselves up. Thanks for the great show. Then we got Moses148 in the U.S. said, awesome, really awesome. Can help my wife so much at home while listening to you guys. Nice. And then we go down to Australia, mate. We got Mr. Map 1122. These guys are super funny and a pleasure to listen to. It's great content. Glad I found them on here. And Instagram, fire emojis. Yeah, check out our Instagram, guys. True Crime Guys. Michael does some really cool artwork for each episode and posts it up on there. We're very interactive. If you post about us in your story, we repost it pretty much every time. If you message us, we message back. And so support on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all that stuff.
Yeah, Instagram is definitely the best way to stay up on news with the podcast, though, guys. Yeah. Aside from the stories and releases, things like that, Instagram is just where it's at. We both are on there too, so we frequent Instagram a little more often.
That's right. Then we got TNC74 in the U.S. A great podcast. Love the intro. Good job keeping up the good work. Can't wait for more. Then we got the U.S. We got M. Myron said, great show. Just discovered this podcast and have been binging. Then we're going up to Canada. We got Murray Cream said, the best, 100%. Taking the time to appreciate the effort and quality of the content the show provides. Love the banter. It's like hanging out with friends and having some awesome perspectives. I appreciate you boys. You are meant to create. I'll be following. I'm only a freeloader for a short time. Right on. Get up on Patreon there, Murray Cream.
Yeah. Lots of goodies awaits.
Yeah, that's right. We got Linky Blue in Great Britain. Been listening to True Crime Podcast daily for years now, and this is one of the most natural, sincere, well-done attempts to get it right. Blushing. Thank you.
Oh, right. That is one thing we are. We are sincere. I think we are very sincere.
Thank you. And they said, don't change for the idiots that complain. You need to be authentically you. Keep doing that. That's we know. That's ultimately we never stray far away from who we are. It's
no. The more you listen, you'll see we're still the same.
Then we got Courtney Sem in the U.S. said, favorite true crime podcast. Love these guys. You can tell that they love what they do. It's a great mixture of humor and information, and always keeps your attention. Thank you. Then we got Mrs. K Holt in the U.S. said, just discovered you a few weeks back. You two are amazing. Love the intros. You do talk a lot, but I find it hilarious. Reminds me of my friend and I. Keep it up. Thank you.
Well, that's kind of our job on here to talk.
Yeah.
Like, what he wants to just sit here and
I
let you
think
talk?
she means we
I
talk
guess
a
we
lot
could- I know, I'm
about
just
not the episode we're supposed to be talking about.
No,
We talk
you
a
know
lot
what?
about stuff
No.
we're not supposed to talk about.
No, you know what? Next episode, we'll just sit here in silence. See how you like that, huh? Fuck. Oh, thanks for tuning in to True Crime.
Anyway, see you next week.
Yeah. That's a little snippet of next week's show.
Then we got Katie Brock in Great Britain said, I'm glad we did an England case this week because Great
Seriously.
Britain's showing out this week.
Good.
They said, I love these guys. I've been binging these guys since I discovered them after typing true crime into podcasts. It's so easy going and casual, and sometimes you forget they're talking about murder. Great to listen after a day of teaching. Oh, a teacher up in Great Britain.
Teacher.
Nice.
Right on.
Then we got KBB510 in the U.S. said, obsessed, always my go-to. You all are awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
KBB. Then we got Alaya. How do you
Nailed
say
it.
that one?
I have no idea.
Ialeali.
I don't have it in front of
Ialeali.
me, so you're on your own.
I'll just keep trying. Ialeali in the U.S. Said, I love the banter. So glad I found you guys. Keep up the amazing work. Thank you. Then we got John Gilbert in the U.S. Recommended a case for us. Said, Paris Bennett. Just heard about this kid. Maybe y'all might like the story, and in turn, I can love the telling of it. Keep up the amazing work, gentlemen. Hope you all have a Thanksgiving and Merry Christmas. Happy holidays to everybody, no matter what
Happy
you
holidays,
celebrate.
guys.
Then we got Mountain Mama 2020 in the U.S. Said, Mountain Mama 2020, love these guys. I listen while I'm at work, and these guys are my favorite podcast. Keep creeping.
Yeah.
And one more.
All
I know
right.
this is quite a list, but it's been 2 weeks, guys. So Bonnie Strange in the U.S. said, great guys, love the music in the beginning of each case. The banter is funny, yet respect for the victim. I enjoy listening. Thanks, guys.
All
Right on. That was too much love, man. I feel like
We don't deserve it? Is that what you're saying?
I don't know. I just feel weird about.
I know. That's a lot of love. But,
I'm never good at taking compliments.
I don't think anybody is, and it's like it's a lose-lose when you take compliments, right? Because it's like, oh, it's just whatever, it's whatever, and then those people get mad. They're like, no, seriously, and then like if you're like, oh yeah,
if you're
thank
like-
you, I know, they're like, this guy's a fucking asshole, like
Yeah, if you really soak in the sun of those compliments, and it seems like you're pompous ass.
right. I don't know what you do. I guess you just smile and bow. I don't know what to do. So. But thank you.
Yeah.
Either way, we appreciate it very much, guys. And we're just trying to put out shows that we want to listen to and things that we like, so in hopes that you will. You know?
That's exactly right.
So, all right. Is that it?
And if you want more content, True Crime Guys, if you could check out our Patreon, patreon.com/True Crime Guys. $2 a month gets you access to the bonus episode we do every month.
Right.
Once out of every 4 episodes is a Patreon exclusive where you can only listen if you are at least a $2 a month patron on patreon.com.
That's right. And guys, those episodes are typically about somewhere around twice as long as a typical episode because of the banter. We don't really hold back on the banter on Patreon. Because we assume if you're on
And
Patreon,
also, we
you must
usually
like
pick
it.
bigger cases too.
Yes, bigger cases, heavier hitters, more well-known serial killers, I guess you could say.
We just did Rodney Alcala last week.
Yeah, the dating game killer, old Mr. Banana.
That one was over 2 hours long, right?
At least, yeah. I think it was a little over 2 hours long. So that's par for the course. Now we have done some like Gacy and Bundy and stuff back in the day. That seems like forever ago, but those are like 3 hours. Man, those were some marathon podcasting days, weren't they?
Oh man,
we were talking about that the other day. How like an hour and a half worth of podcasting used to take us 4 or 5 hours minimum, and then like a 3 hour episode would take us like 8 hours of like just recording and work, and then you take breaks. You got bathroom breaks. You get a snack or whatever, and it would take like an all day thing. And now we knock out an hour
that
and a half.
included us driving. We lived an hour apart too.
That's
true. So that included an hour drive each way for whoever had to drive to the other person that given week.
That's true.
It was an all day affair. But we've gotten better and better at it, man. Thankfully that we've just been consistent with it, and that's life, though. You've got to stay consistent with anything you're trying to meet goals on.
That's right.
Consistency
is the biggest thing.
We've been very consistent every single week, putting up content, and it gets so much easier. And when you're consistent at things, it just gets easier.
Well, it's because you don't give at least for me, I don't give myself a choice. I'm like, this is due this day, and I have to do this day. Like I know on 10:30 on Sunday mornings, I'm not doing anything other than recording this podcast. Like that's what I'm doing. It's just anybody's like, hey, what are you doing Sunday morning? I'm like, I'm busy. Like, that's just how it is.
Dude, last
and you
night,
have to make it a priority to build this.
Yeah, so this weekend was my daughter's second birthday, so we had like everybody, the close family members coming over yesterday to see her, and we had to do all the prep work and all that stuff, plus Christmas and everything. So it was a very busy weekend for me. And last night I wanted to give in and just like, let's record on another day, let's do something, but I just hunkered down.
Yep.
And I got it done because I did, like you said, did not give myself another option.
Nope.
And I'm so glad I did, because we just got to stay on this path.
That's
that we're
right.
On, so.
That's right. And the more you stay with it, and don't get me wrong, like, I think some people misunderstand what I'm saying, because I have friends that are like, well, you're talking quantity over quality, bro. Like, I don't feel like doing it this week. I'm like, that's fine. That's fine. But I understand what you're saying, and I'm not saying quantity over quality. I'm saying that you need to be consistent with every aspect of it. So what takes a quality episode? If 3-4 hours of preparation takes a quality episode, then you need to be consistent with your hours of preparation.
That's the 3-4 hours you have to put in.
Yeah, that's the hours of preparation that you need to keep putting that out. I'm not saying just jump on the mic and record a song, or just jump on a canvas and just paint a picture. Like, you have to prepare for that. That the consistency and preparation is just as important as the consistency of the output of your content. That's all I'm trying to say.
And while we're on this, you might as well, let's talk about your other show and our other shows under the True Crime Guys umbrella. Yes,
we should. Strange and Unexplained, guys. If you are into unsolved, missing persons, strange phenomena, what else? Cults, eugenics. There's been all kinds of weird stuff that we've covered on Strange and Unexplained.
Paranormal.
Yeah,
a little bit of paranormal in there.
And we're only on episode like 37, so we're just getting started, guys. But new episodes of Strange and Unexplained drop every Monday, okay? Unless otherwise specified, but I ain't missed one yet, and I don't plan on it. So every Monday, guys, new episodes of Strange and Unexplained. If you'd like to get them a few days earlier on Thursday, maybe you like to listen to your True Crime Guys content back-to-back, Wednesday releases of TCG and then Thursday releases of Sandu, you can do that. Patreon.com/SandU podcast. You get early access to every Sandu episode, as well as another show that I do on there called Strange Shorts, which I am doing my very best to get that on a regular schedule as well. So again, guys, patreon.com/SNU podcast for Strange and Unexplained content. And then we also patreon.com/True Crime Guys for all of your extra TCG content, premium episodes, and whatnot. So, guys, also check out our merch, truecrimeguys.threadless.com. There's a link below the description. Go get you a True Crime Guys hoodie, okay? Winter is almost here.
Probably not too late to get one before Christmas.
That's right. Winter is almost here. Get it. The shipping
is
that's right. Winter is coming. The shipping is pretty quick, actually. Pretty quick turnaround on Threadless. So, and good quality stuff as well, guys. We've seen some people already posting their sweatshirts and t-shirts on social media. Thank you guys so much for supporting the show and for also representing the show in public. That goes a long way. When people see those t-shirts, they're like, what the hell is this? You know? And that opens up a conversation. So we appreciate that very much, guys.
All right. Are we done babbling?
I think we're done.
Okay. See you guys next week. Keep creeping.
Keep creeping, guys.
True Crime Guys. In the desert, we like a mirage. It's okay if you clicked on us because you thought we was True Crime Garage. Now we ain't mad at you. Sit down, let us talk at you. I'm talking to the creeper army. We out here making murder, get murder, get murder. True Crime Guys. In the desert, we like a mirage. It's okay if you clicked on us because you thought we was True Crime Garage. Now we ain't mad at you. Sit down, let us talk at you. I'm talking to the creeper army. We out here making murder charming.